Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Electric. I am congested as all get out, and I'm just going to put that out there right at the beginning of this episode, so if you pick up on it, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
So, yes, but regardless of having really bad allergies right now, we are going to be talking about our dreams, right Alex?
Yes.
Yes.
All of our dreams.
Dreaming Electric. That's the new episode, the new series of Living Electric. No, we are talking about our ideal DC fast charging sites, and I'm going to pass it over to Alex because he had a really interesting tweet that I think gathered a lot of attention, right?
Yes, yeah. I posted this on Twitter and also LinkedIn. I think it took off on LinkedIn a little bit more because it's kind of a heated topic for some people. I think everybody kind of has the same goal, but just are thinking about it different ways, which is fine. And so I'll just read it verbatim. So I just said the competition for EV charging sites isn't fellow EV charging sites, it's gas stations. Until EV drivers can get a similar experience on the go as a gas station, EVs won't reach mass adoption. So I'll pass it back to you. What's your initial thoughts with that? And then I'll kind of clarify what I meant afterwards.
I feel like we're doing a news story, passing it back and forth.
We're back to Brandon in the booth now.
Right. I mean, so my personal opinion is that, and I saw a lot of people responding to it, a lot of people will charge from home if you have home charging available to utilize, which is true. 90% of our charging is typically at home. But when we are on the road, we like to go to chargers that are either at a Sheetz, or at a gas station. That way we can kind of use the restroom, get food, and so forth. But there's a lot of EV chargers that are in either open parking lots, parking garages, Walmarts, for example, which you do have bathrooms and you can purchase things, but it tends to be further away than what a charger at a gas station would be.
Right.
So I definitely think that if you have home charging available, EV adoption's a little easier, but yeah, I definitely think that when it comes to features and what's the word? I'm trying to think of the
amenities
the right word.
or
yes, yeah, amenities.
Yeah.
I definitely think that should be the future because that's what we're used to, for transportation.
Right. And I think a lot of people miss that in my initial tweet. I do choose my words carefully when I tweet to make sure I cover myself. But I said
no edit button.
Right. I said a similar experience on the go as a gas station. Obviously, EV charging, like you said, most of it's going to happen at home. Most drivers have an opportunity to plug in home, whether it's in their driveway, if they have a garage, that is obviously the easiest way to go, and that's where most charging is going to happen. But the fact is, in the U.S. especially, we're a very car-driven culture, and we drive a lot farther than our other countries do. I mean, driving across state is like driving between countries sometimes in other parts of the world. So cars are very much a part of the culture in the U.S., and driving long distances is a part of culture in the U.S. So having that similar experience and those similar kind of amenities, like a restroom, places to go get a quick snack, all of those are crucial at EV charging sites, as crucial as they are at gas stations. I think sometimes we think we can just throw a charger there and it'll be fine, but I think we're getting to the point now where drivers are expecting more out of EV charging sites.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and you're, well aware of, the travels in your Model 3, and, we're starting to experience that now, too, having our Model 3. And we just did a trip to D.C., and most of the time there, it was either at a travel center or at a Sheetz. So, we can pick up, snacks, get, whatever coffee. But then on the way home, we stopped by one of the original superchargers, and it was behind a hotel. And it's I get it, it's off of a busy road, but at the same time, it's but there's nothing to do, you're not going to walk into a hotel and be you got free breakfast,
yeah,
right. So I definitely, I think that having amenities and just kind of having a similar experience to what it's going to a gas station, I think should be a focus, as we roll out new chargers.
And a lot of the responses too were I don't want another gas station, and that's fine. If you don't want the same type of gas station experience, that's fine, but I think the core kind of amenities, the core features of a gas station still need to be present. Gas stations are popular in the way they are for a reason. You could go in, use the restroom, you can get snacks, They've got canopies over all the stations. Like a lot of these just kind of things we take for granted at gas stations need to start making their way to EV charging stations.
Oh, for sure.
EV charging sites.
Yeah, and that's exactly like why I want to talk with the owner of Franklin's Charging Hub down in Little Rock, Arkansas. Because it's very similar to that. They have a food truck that will come there. So, like, when people come up and, like, charge, they can grab food. There's indoor restrooms. Like, it's not, like, in the far back end of a parking lot. Like, I've seen so many charging stations where it's, like, in like, public chargers in office building parking lots. And, I definitely think that, like, it needs to be a thought.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because not everybody's not going to want that. The thing is that like if we're going to have widespread EV adoption, it's going to have to be tailored to everyday drivers. People who are used to it.
And I mean, the great thing is, and the reason I think we both want to do this episode is we're still very early in EV adoption as a whole, right? We're still very early. In the grand scheme of things, there are not a lot of fast charging sites out there. It might seem like there are a lot now, like as an EV driver, but I mean, as the cars get more popular, these stations are going to start popping up everywhere. I don't think we'll need quite as many as gas stations, just because for the reasons we've stated, most people can just charge at home, but people are still going to be taking road trips. So the kind of idea and the guiding light for this episode is, what is our ideal DC fast charging site? If one of us had unlimited budget, unlimited resources, what would we build? So that's kind of what we're attacking here today. So did you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I'm gonna let you start. I'm gonna kind of let this allergy attack kind of subside. So
all right, and feel free to butt in if I'm like rambling, because we were talking before this. Like I'm very engineering minded, so I feel like I'm gonna attack it that way of like what the construction process needs to be or something like that. But
no, it's good for me to learn this. So I listened to those recommended podcasts you told me. I learned how electricity works. So that's awesome. Should be the foundation of my, everything.
Next episode, you got to explain it to our listeners.
It's shocking. The truth is shocking.
The truth.
And if we didn't,
sounds like you uncovered some hidden thing.
Right. I was gonna say, and if all of our listeners didn't just drop off there, I don't know what would happen. What would cause that. So
this is what's keeping them around.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
So my ideal fast charging site, again, very, very engineering minded. So I think, first off, like, you need power at the site. That's the reason a lot of these sites are so far away from amenities, because they want to get it as close to like the transformer or where power is available, so that it's a cheaper install. Because if you put it right next to a utility pole, it's a lot cheaper than putting it like at a prime spot next to a gas station or something where it might be a lot harder and more expensive to get power in. So with unlimited resources, though, I think my ideal site is like a standalone charging site. So like you wouldn't have to cross parking lots to go get amenities. And kind of my thinking is it would be right off the highway, almost kind of like a strip mall type setup, where you have like a strip mall full of buildings with anybody can lease out spots in there for their respective business. I would assume it would mostly be food, but like you could have a Chipotle in there, you could have a coffee shop, you could have all kinds of different options for people. And then all the parking spaces for that strip mall would be a big like solar canopy above that, and then a bunch of fast chargers underneath that solar canopy. So you've got some solar to probably just power the buildings, because like it's probably not going to power all the fast chargers. I hate to break it to everybody, but like a little solar panel does not power a fast charger. It's just not enough power. But maybe could power all the buildings. And then you've got to have, I feel like, a minimum of at least 10 fast chargers. I feel like 10's a good number, especially as it gets more crowded. Like most gas stations have at least 8, I feel like, pumps. So I think 8 to 10 is a sweet spot. And then the other thing I didn't really think of is like, what do you do if people have trailers or anything like that? I'd assume you could probably build out the parking lot so it's easy to like pull through, and there's a lot of space to drive around in there. So you'd have the chargers, you'd have the solar canopy, you'd have the strip mall with a bunch of different amenities in it. Probably need to have like a public bathroom that's like right in the middle. And then maybe like some... Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say just a bathroom right in the middle of the parking lot.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, like built into the strip mall, I think. Sometimes at like malls, you know how it's kind of like in between stores. You like walk down the hallway and it's like back there, something like that. And then ideally you would have some sort of green space, maybe on the opposite side of all the strip malls, like with a dog park, a picnic table, like that kind of stuff if people want to eat outside or hang out if the weather's nice. So I think that covered everything, but that's kind of my dream right there.
You just paint, I mean, like, honestly, that description, like, painted the whole vision in my head. Like, I could totally picture that.
Yeah.
So I do have a question for you. So, like, you know, with a lot of times, and this goes into, like, you know, like the charge weight, like the colors and numbers, you know, a lot of people like to say fast chargers to, like, represent, like, you know, different, like, power levels. What would you say what would you say would be the best power level that you would have to be bare minimum at your ideal charging location?
Oh, bare minimum, I think you need to have 150, at least 150 kilowatts, which I think is a 6, right?
Yep, green 6.
Okay.
Yeah, or red 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need at least that power, but then I think maybe a third to like a fourth of the chargers could be faster. So like the high end like 350s or something like that. So like the level 7s, like all the way as high as you can go. And those would be like, I don't know if there's a good way to like block those off so like you don't have a bolt pull up and like plug into the super fast chargers, or like I think the one thing I didn't mention is signage would have to be crucial too, that says like EV parking only while charging, or EV charging only. And then maybe on those faster sites say like parking only for high charge rate vehicles or something like that, just so people at least kind of have that extra check, like, is mine a high charge rate vehicle? Like, if you don't know, then it probably isn't. So
yeah. Yeah.
But
no, that makes sense. Do you think, I mean, maybe this is going to steal my idea, you know, for my ideal charging location, but like when it comes to signage, I immediately think of what like a lot of like parking garages are doing when there's like an open space. Like, you know, they have like almost like a board with like we saw this in DC actually, when you pulled into a garage, there was a board with the floor, and then it showed you how many spaces were available on that floor or on that level. Do you think, would you have anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like we're stealing a lot of Electrify America ideas, because we did that episode on their kind of like dream EV charging site, but they did have that. I think they had like a big like gas station style sign that had the price of charging. It had how many spaces were available, and I can't remember what else it had on there, but like just some basic information like that would be good.
I like the idea of this. So now when it comes to like the actual location, where do you think you would like ideally want to start in the United States? Like, do you think you'd want to start in Ohio, or like, do you have like an idea?
That's a good question. This is where the data I think would come in. You'd have to see like where it would probably be in California. The business case at least would probably be somewhere in California, because just EVs are everywhere out there. Selfishly, I would want it in Ohio because I'd want it in like my home state. But I think you'd have to look at the data and see, all right, where's the most traveled area with the most EV adoption or something like that, and say, all right, we want it on this stretch of highway somewhere like within a mile of the interchange. So I think that's how I'd go about it.
Okay. And do you think you would kind of cater more towards specific EVs, or do you think because like there's more, you know, adapters out now that you could like kind of have it more universal?
That's a good question. Yeah, I feel like by the time we have some kind of site like this, hopefully things are a little bit more standardized.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You might have to have multiple plug options, and also say like, or have adapters available or something like that. But hopefully every stall would have the option to charge any vehicle. So like you wouldn't have to worry about like, oh, well, I've got this vehicle and I've got to drive over here to plug into this specific one. Like ideally you'd be able to park right in front of like McDonald's if you're going to go get McDonald's instead of like pulling all the way down and parking at some other site. So
yeah,
I think kind of giving customers the option there would be good.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have any other ideas. Actually, yeah. So you mentioned that like you would have like a line of businesses, almost like a strip mall-esque style. What kind of businesses would you have in there, and like how do you think that would like offer the right amenities for everyday drivers.
Right. Yeah, you'd almost have to kind of leave it to the market and kind of make some partnerships with businesses that like want to invest in like EV charging or something like that, and kind of almost like help invest in the site. But ideally, like I love fast casual restaurants. Those are like some of my favorite because usually you can get a good filling meal that is somewhat healthy and doesn't take too long. So like it's a slightly longer stop than a like a gas station fill up, but it's like just long enough to charge up your car and eat something. So like I stop at the Supercharger in Dayton a decent amount, and there's a Chipotle within walking distance. So like I pull in, usually before we like get to the site, I'll have Mallory like plug in my order on on the Chipotle app, so it's ready to pick up when we get there. I walk in, I grab it, come back to the car, and by the time I'm done eating, usually the car's done. We can unplug and leave. So
nice.
I think a lot of fast casual restaurants, and then some coffee shops maybe for people that want to hang out a little bit longer or want to like charge their car all the way up to 100% because they've got a long stretch or something like that. But I think a mix of those I think would be good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like other amenities that you typically, like find at like a gas station that like would offer value to like drivers.
What about beyond a gas station that we might like if you're building your dream gas station, like what's missing from a gas station that you think should be included in like an EV charging site?
Well, first I have to clarify I've never been asked my dream gas station. That's a new one. I was going to say nothing. There would be no dream gas station.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, like I feel like the one thing that you did like kind of like glance over, and I feel like this is something that like a lot of people might like kind of look over when you're at like a gas station or like a travel center, is ready to go food and drink options, like like where you walk in and there's like a cooler with like Gatorades or whatever, not sponsored, just throwing that out there,
right?
So no product placement in our podcast, but like like something like that where you could walk in, there's a fridge, you can grab like a ready-made sandwich or something like that.
Yeah, almost like at the airport where they've got all those like kind of places where you can just grab drinks and sandwiches that are like ready and pre-made that you can like grab real quick. Yeah, I think that's a good idea as well. I like that.
Yeah. I feel like that's something that like we always take advantage of, especially like, like drinks. Like it's nice to have like a cold drink while you're driving, and like, you can just walk into a gas station and grab that.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing we did miss is like charge port location or charging cable length or something like that.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that? Because the market is not standardized around, even on the gas side, nobody's really standardized like where you put gas in your car.
No.
Most of them are in the rear side of the vehicle, but I think on the EV charging side, they're all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say for my like ideal like charging like location and stuff like that, accessibility would be like a big factor, especially for people who have like mobility, like impairments, like where they need to have like either lighter cables or just easier access to like a station. I feel like the best. This is such a tough thing because like I really feel like Tesla did it right by having the charge port on the driver's side, like the rear driver's side. But I almost feel like Rivian is also doing it right by having it on the very front corner of their vehicle. I feel like I feel like from like a collision standpoint, a charge port would ideally be like on the side of the vehicle because I feel like you're less likely to get into an accident from the side. Yeah. Where if it's on like the rear bumper, you could get rented, or like if it's on the front of your vehicle, like some of like the Kona electric and like the Nero EV, they could get damaged really, really easily. So I don't know. I feel like it's either or, but I feel like it has to be on the driver's side. Like I feel like for safety reasons, you should easily have access to where you're plugging in, and then either to get back into the car or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen some weird like places when I've plugged in of like you have to stretch the cable like across the car, and it could get real messy because some people don't like backing in, like they just pull in forward, where like the Rivian is nice because you can pull in forward, the plug is literally right there, you don't need to like wrap it around the car at all. For Teslas though, like I've seen, or even other cars, like if it's on the rear side of the vehicle, I've seen people pull in forward, stretch it across their entire vehicle to plug in on the rear of their car. Like it's kind of messy that way too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and gas stations kind of have it figured out where it's like a pull through type deal. So like you just pull up as far as your like plug is. So I think almost kind of having a similar setup at a site like that would be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like, like now that I'm like thinking about like gas tank locations, like if it's like on the opposite side of the vehicle, like just like how the Ioniq 5 and like, the EV6 and the GV60 have it on the passenger side, I feel like from like a safety like perspective, you have to walk around your entire vehicle to get to that side. And like there's a lot of times where like people are at gas stations, we see videos of it all the time where people jump into the driver's seat, when you're on the other side of your car. So like I feel, and it kind of goes into like the experience I had with the Bolt where the charge port's like, it's on the driver's side, but like it's still kind of like awkward to bring the cable around and have it like connected there, which so many EVs have, the charge port right there. I feel like from like a safety perspective, it's better to have it on the driver's side,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like I just like, I feel like that's something that like a lot of like charging station like manufacturers are like kind of like glossing over. Like I get it, for like higher power stations you have to have like different like type of like hardware within, the cables and the cords. But
Right.
like for people who don't have the upper body strength to carry the from the station to the vehicle and literally, plug it in, because sometimes you have to do like an upward movement depending on how heavy that cable is. I think that's something that a lot of people just look over. And, there's a big population who could utilize, easier to carry cables,
Yeah. It'd almost be nice if you had like a big like arm or something that like swings out over your vehicle, and then it just kind of like it just like you literally just kind of like swing it around and then plug it in wherever your charge port is.
Yeah.
I think that something like that would be cool.
I think in South Korea, Hyundai actually has, I think it's a beta program. I don't think it's like public, but they have this like charging station where you pull in and it's like a circular device and it will actually rotate to where your charger is and then it drops down automatically.
That's perfect. Yeah, something like that would be ideal.
Yes.
Because then you don't have to worry about lifting cables at all. Like I know that's an issue I've realized already now that I have my CCS adapter. Is like like some of these cables are massive. Like I'm in pretty good shape, but like if somebody isn't or like is disabled or has any kind of issues like that, the like it's gonna be difficult to lift some of these cables and actually plug them into your car.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I'm sure
you had issues with your Bolt, right? Where like you had to almost like lift it up to make sure it connected correctly, like because of the weight of the cable. So I think yeah.
That's because General Motors didn't reinforce the charge port. So like
oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like the weight of those cables, like you mentioned, I would literally have to hold it until like it did the handshake and initialize the charge, and then I could, release it. But like even then I had to like, gradually drop it, because if I just dropped it, it would, who knows what it would do. So yeah, a lot of people have those issues with bolts.
Good. What were you gonna say? Sorry, I kind of cut you off.
I can't remember. Oh no. So I feel like I'm like just like giving all this information about like my ideal charging location, but so like this kind of ties into it. I'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to like ask you, so like from both from like a professional standpoint and like like all your experience with like driving an EV, have you noticed that a lot of charging stations are back far enough to where like if there was somebody like say for example like in a wheelchair, they wouldn't be able to reach the cable? From my experience, besides like some Tesla superchargers, there are a lot of charging stations where it would be very difficult for somebody to reach them.
I've noticed that, and I've also noticed a lot of charging installations will require bollards to be put in place.
Mm-hmm.
And those can be a pain to work around. Like even as a capable like adult, I guess, like I'm fortunate enough to not be in a wheelchair and not have like any kind of accessibility issues, but and even for me, like working around the like wrapping the cord around the bollard so I can plug in my car, like it's a pain sometimes. So I could definitely see those being an issue. And I understand why they're there, but if it's getting in the way and almost causing more safety issues because you're like tangling cords up and like reaching around stuff, like how much of a benefit is that if it's getting in the way of the actual charger people are using? So
yeah, it seems to be more of a focus. I know with like Circle K with their new charging network, they really seem to be putting a focus on making sure that it is accessible for for individuals like in wheelchairs and just making sure. But like I think that was something that was looked over in a lot of station planning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But so do you want to hear my ideal charging?
Yes. Okay. I'm very curious.
So first off, they would offer unlimited allergy medicine. No, I'm just kidding.
Flonase for everyone.
Enough harping on that. But, so my ideal charging location would be actually kind of similar to like what you were saying about like having like, it in an area where there would be like shopping available. There would be like quick restaurants, like healthy options for people who are looking to, get some good food while their car's charging. But the way I envision my ideal charging location is similar to yours. I really think that there should be a heavy focus on the data in terms of like how the electric fuel is like being delivered to your vehicle and like where it's like originating from.
That's cool.
So I would like to start with like signage. So like signage would be like really important. Be it if it's showing that like today's energy or electricity is coming from mainly wind power, we would highlight that.
Gotcha.
If it's coming from solar, highlight that. I would definitely have battery backups, kind of similar to what we're seeing with like the Tesla installs with the mega packs.
Right.
And getting some good, almost like disaster recovery planning done. So like if there is power outages, at least it could power some cars temporarily until the power comes back on. And then in terms of signage, I would love to have where there would be like a charger availability number that works in real time with like the chargers. So like have it be heavily focused on Internet of Things. So like everything would be very intertwined in terms of like connectivity.
Nice.
And then from a physical standpoint, with like signage, obviously ChargeWay, we would have ChargeWay labels all over the chargers so people could, of course, gotta shout out ChargeWay. That way when drivers show up, kind of similar to what you mentioned in the Bolt, they're not taking those green 7s. They can leave those for the vehicles that are capable of that. And for everybody who's not familiar with ChargeWay's colors and numbers, green 7 represents anything over 200 kilowatts. So essentially, I would try to keep my chargers at about 350 at this location. But I think it'd be smart to have anything from 50 to 350, just to kind of have a wide array available for drivers. Food would be heavily focused on for this planning. Yes. Offer anything from, vegan options to people that have dietary, requirements to, Chipotle, anything, that way when people go there, they feel comfortable knowing that they can get what they need and have a really easy charging experience. I think that would be something I would heavily focus on is how people interact with the chargers.
Right.
Try to stay away from mobile apps as best as I can. That way nobody has to download it. That way nobody has to download another mobile app to initiate the charge. But then it kind of like falls into like, well, how would we make money? Would we use a QR code? And, or do we just try to make reliable credit card payers? Like our machines, credit card machines. So, the focus would be heavily on the customer experience.
Right.
And then obviously I'm going to copy you, have the green space, have, readily available clean bathrooms. I would have it kind of be similar to like the travel centers that have like the showers and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. That's good.
I know you probably won't be there, especially if you're charging on a green 7, longer than like 15, 20 minutes. But like, it would be nice to like, if there is like, especially for like the semi trucks that are coming, they can at least go in, use, get a shower, get food, and then on their way.
I was going to say semi-trucks might need to be a whole separate charging site, I have a feeling.
Yes.
Like you almost, how kind of like rest stops are split up, the like semis on this side, regular cars on this side. You might need kind of like two separate sections for that because you need a lot more power for the semi-trucks if they're coming in. So.
Yep. the other thing that I do want to mention is that like this ideal charging site would be for more like freeway and like highway traveling. I would like to talk about more of like a local charging ideal like location for like either like level 2 charging or like something that's more like not as fast, like where people aren't going to be on the highway. But
Right.
before I jump to that, I do have a two-way question because I want to answer this too.
Okay.
Do you have an ideal name of what you would want to call your charging location or
Oh, I,
locations?
I don't at all. I'm curious what yours is though.
Oh man, I was hoping you were going to answer, so you give me time
Oh,
to think of one.
I didn't even think about naming. I'm not great at naming things, so
Well, we can get to branding later, but
how about we'll pass that to the audience. If you
Yes.
had your ideal charging site, what would you name it? Drop it in the comments below.
for sure.
Or send us a note on social media because I know not everybody listens on YouTube. So
Yeah. And then one other thing that I do want to mention with the ideal charging site is that, like, for my ideal location, I want to make sure that it's readily available for everybody, that it's, safe, it's well lit, and that, like, anybody, whoever, the driver is and, like, whatever they're traveling for, whatever, can pull in and feel safe utilizing those chargers. Because I know I've talked about this on the show before. I was almost robbed at a charging station. And,
Yeah.
and
no
I
good.
mean, no, it's not. A lot of chargers, as we talked about, are in weird locations so they can, connect to the, transformers and the grid. But like, it really leaves an opportunity for a dangerous situation to occur. And if that's the one thing with gas stations, some of them are, in, rougher areas, but like, there a lot of them are well lit. At least
Right.
they have well lit, like areas. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Nice.
These allergies are getting to me.
You're good. So you mentioned battery backup, which is the one thing
Mhm.
I didn't think about to say. So what would be the situation in the event that you lost grid power but you still had battery backup at the site?
But,
What would
so like,
happen?
what would happen?
Yeah, I'm curious like how you would manage because obviously you've only got enough power for like a limited time and you probably don't have the same output as like the whole thing running at once. So
Yeah.
how would you tackle that, I guess?
Oh, I feel like this is a good engineering question. Like, well, first off, I would cut the power to the charging stations in terms of like the power output to try to
Right.
conserve the battery storage.
Yeah.
And then I would obviously, with like customer experience being like a heavy focus, I would either change the signage to like show like, like some type of like warning sign just to like give drivers like a heads up, like this is currently what we're experiencing. And to be honest, it actually would be kind of cool to have like a percentage signage. So like as like the batteries deplete,
That'd be
people
cool.
can see how much like, state of charge those backups have.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. That's a really good question. But I feel like operational, like I would probably cut the power output to the chargers and like have
Yeah.
them be the bare minimum to make sure drivers are at least charging until we run out of, battery. And
Yeah.
then obviously, have some type of like, I don't know, social post or something and just be like, hey, like, we're totally dead in the water right now. We don't have
Right.
power. Like, don't come here.
Right.
Type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
because
about you?
I'm trying to think because like I agree with you. I think just dropping power to all the chargers to say like, hey, we're down, and then we're diverting power to like all of our restaurants here because they got to keep the food like cold or like
Oh, yes.
and keep
Definitely.
the area safe, keep the lights on. Like
Yep.
especially if that happened at night, like during a storm or something, you would still want all the lights on. You would still want kind of those basic amenities up and running.
Mhm.
So I think keeping that stuff, and then I'm not sure because the battery obviously you could make it as big as you wanted, so you could ideally, I mean, run it for another like 24 hours and not have any issues with people coming in and out and charging them. But I think it
Yeah.
depends on the size of that battery. But
Y-
I
yeah.
agree. I think just dropping the power output to the chargers down a little bit or like down lower to say, hey, we just lost power completely, so we're still giving you a charge because we've got backup, but it's going to take a little bit longer. So
Yes. Yeah. I do have a question for you that's just popped into my head. So, like, when it comes to, like, almost like time of use, like rates, like, for example, like if there was like a power outage, How would you handle, and this isn't just tied to like the backup batteries dying, but like, for example, like how would you handle general payment? Like, would you have it be based on the power output of that station? Would you have it be based on like kilowatt hours delivered?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think this is another opportunity for some cool collaboration with whoever is leasing those restaurant spaces. Because I think I talked about this in one of our other episodes to say like, hey, if you go grab a Chipotle burrito, you get 10% off your charging or something like that. Like kind of integrating some points or some fun stuff like that would be cool. But yeah, preferably it's like per kilowatt hour and it's like a little bit higher depending on what your peak power output is. So like if you're a Bolts and you're only pulling 50 kW, like don't charge them as much per kilowatt hour as a Tesla or an Ioniq 5 pulling up that's pulling like close to 300. So I think something like that would be nice. But also I'm now thinking like on the business side, you probably wouldn't want to charge people more that are staying there longer, because every car that is sitting there longer is wasting time and money for another customer to come in. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But
well, that's where you could cater that, like the food experience to like the cars that charge slower. Be like, like
that's true.
If you come in and you drive a Bolt, like we see that you charge at a green 4 or 50 kilowatts, like you're going to be here longer. Let's give you a 15% discount on your burrito or like something like that.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Kind of incentivize some of the cars that, charge slower.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like for me, I would do flat pricing for kilowatt hours delivered. That way it is kind of like fair across the board, but then kind of have like fun like holidays in a way. So like, how like EA or, Electrify America does like the free charging days for like Earth Day and like some other holidays.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to like work with like kind of how Volta does, where they subsidize, their charging. Be like, today's charging sessions are brought to you by, Nike or like something like that. So like that way, like when a driver shows up, it's like, oh, it's Nike Day, like I get free charging. So
that'd be cool.
Yeah, something like that. Collaborate with some other businesses.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, that'd be cool.
My question for you now. So since we talked about like the highway traveling, and I know we're kind of coming up on time, but when it comes to like local charging, do you have an ideal like, like if you could have like one business and like you just had like a handful of, green 2s or level 2s in your parking lot, how would you handle that?
Yeah, so I've kind of been thinking about this now that after you mentioned it earlier. I'm kind of thinking back to when we were in Pasadena for that EV Media Summit, how we had a bunch of like lower power DC chargers around. And I'm thinking that's almost a better approach than a bunch of level 2s, just because like the charge time is kind of longer. So like I'm almost thinking of like a charging plaza almost more than like a charging stop, if you will.
Oh,
so like
yeah.
You've got a bunch of lower powered chargers that like most cars are going to be plugged in 1 to 2 hours. It's just enough time to go get a nice meal. Like something like that I think would be better than a bunch of level 2s, because I'm still very torn on like public level 2s. I feel like they end up being so underutilized. Like people just plug in because they can. It's not necessarily because they need to. So I don't know. I think lower power DC is probably the better way to go. That's the engineering answer for you.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. It goes back to our conversation with, Nicholas and Joseph from Orange Charger.
Right.
Like how, like if you do think of it, a lot of like public level 2s are in places where they want you to stay longer.
Right.
To utilize whatever's around there. So I agree with you, except for my business, and this is actually like a dream of mine that like I really want to have. I kind of want to have a mixture of the two, have like a low power, DC fast charger, and then like a few level 2s, only because I would like to do a coffee shop. Like I think that it would be really cool to mix caffeine with like electricity and like, have it almost be like, I kind of like envision the branding in my head, but like I'm still trying to think of a name. But like basically where the whole front parking row parking spots would be a few of those fast chargers for people who may only want to be there for like an hour. Maybe they're at a business meeting versus people who are coming in for like homework or, like just to relax. That way they can stop at the level 2s.
Gotcha.
And I would try to have it be all non-network. That way it's more of an incentive for people to come in for coffee and for food than it is to pay for
Hang out.
charging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not like a coffee shop goer where I'll go there for like 3 hours. So I'm not the person to ask about this. I'm usually like an hour tops, like go in there for like to get a little bit of work done and drink my drink and then leave. So that's why I was kind of thinking the lower power DC. But yeah, I think that's a good idea because you're definitely like incentivizing people to stay longer, spend more money on drinks, spend more money on snacks. Like they're probably more incentivized to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like there's a case for both of them. Like, I agree with you that parking garage in Pasadena was really cool to have, like chargers that would charge your car in like an hour and a half. That way you can go shopping, go to dinner, So, like, I kind of feel like it would be kind of fun to gamify some of, like, the charging practices. Kind of goes back to, like, what I mentioned where, like, if you're driving a slower, charging vehicle, give them a discount. But, like, for, like, the coffee shop, it'd be really cool to be, like, show us your, like, your key card or, like, your mobile app and show us that you have an EV and, get, like, free things or, like, something like that. Like,
yeah.
I feel like that would be pretty cool to get customers excited about it.
I'm envisioning like it'd be cool to have like 3 different lanes almost of like for like where you pull into depending that says like 2 to 3 hours, like under 1 hour, and then like under 15 minutes. Like you'd like how long do you want to stop, and then you pull into that one, and then like you could even have, if you're smart, have the charger recognize like and time it out exactly. So it's like you could throttle the charger up or down depending on how much charge that vehicle needs and how long that person wants to stop. So you pull in and you say, I've got 30 minutes. So then it says, all right, we'll do it all for you.
Oh, yeah.
And like
that's pretty cool.
Plan it for you. Because you can't do that with charging stations. You can like throttle the output that way. So that would be kind of cool. Because most of the time we plug in now and it's like, I just want to charge as fast as I can, right?
Yeah.
Like there's not really any kind of messing around with that. But that would be neat if you could say 30-minute timer, like get it done in 30 minutes.
Yeah, that actually would be really cool because like, everybody has like different reasons. Like you mentioned, a lot of people want to get in and get out, but some people might...
Everybody's road trip experience is different, right?
Yeah.
Like I talked to some couples and they're like, yeah, we stop for an hour, we go into Cracker Barrel, we eat a whole meal, like, and then we come back out to our car. Like, and others are like, no, I'm like, I literally like, I throw gas in my car, I sprint into the gas station, I pee in record time, grab a drink and come out. Like, very two wide ends of the spectrum there. So.
Right. Yeah. I think that's where I feel like right now, like, you brought it up at the beginning of this episode, like we are really early on in the industry and like I think a lot of people are still figuring it out. But I think the main focus is still get them in the ground, get the charging station in the ground. Yeah. And like I hear it all the time, like put them in the ground, they will come. But like the thing is, I've always thought this, but will they stay? Like I always joke with like, Tyler, like when he was like, I'll be here all night. I'm like, yeah, but will your fans be, or will it just be you? Joking, of course, because like it's something to think about, like if the experience is not good, people will not come back. So like, I think like as the industry grows, I really hope there is a focus on what these stations offer,
Right.
So I think this was a fun episode. I enjoyed this. It kind of brought me back to like my childhood of like thinking of like dream locations and dream homes and
Dreaming Electric. Yep.
Yes, Dreaming Electric. We'll have to like insert like a sound effect, like now you're awake.
Yeah, I was wondering like because you said like if you like, are people going to stay? But I was also thinking, are the chargers going to stay if it isn't a good experience? Like, if not enough people, like, it's kind of a two-edged sword there. If not enough people are actually using them, are people just going to rip them out because it costs too much to fix up and repair and all that stuff? Yeah. So, that's another thing to think about as well. We didn't even get into, like, the O&M aspect, but, like, Tesla's got that figured out because they have, I think, 99.96% uptime across all their superchargers. Did you see that stat the other day?
I did see that, yeah.
And the industry average, I think, is sitting around like 65 or something like abysmal. So like that's why Tesla's got it figured out, because they have a very good charging experience. So I think having a goal similar to that at a station like this or a group of stations or sites like this is crucial as well, because you've got to be up. Like, it's got to be reliable.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and I definitely let's do that on the next episode because like I do have some like ideas of how that will be improved, especially as the industry is figuring things out.
Right.
So yeah,
That's a good topic.
we'll do part 2 of installing our dream locations.
I think just charging uptime would be a good episode, or at least
Ooh,
part
yeah.
of an episode. I'll add that to our list here.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, I want to push this back to the audience too.
Yes.
Since we did give them the opportunity to name our ideal charging locations, let us know what you guys think. Like what are some amenities that you would like to offer? How would you structure your charging locations? And just let us know on our social pages, and we'll recap in the next episode. We'll talk more about that.
Yes. And if you're listening, we haven't plugged this in a while, but if you're listening on the Anchor app, you can actually send us like a voice memo, which would be awesome for this. If you can kind of like describe your ideal charging site in like 30 seconds, or maybe things we missed, or additional features would be cool to share on the next episode.
For sure. Well, since I did the intro, I'll pass it off to you. And back to you, Alex.
Yes. We're in the booth here.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you all so much for listening. Like Brandon said, reach out to us if you have any feedback or things we missed here. Definitely want to hear from the audience as usual. And we'll catch you on the next episode.